What's up, guys? It's Chris back with another watch video. Today I am talking Rolex again, and I am answering some questions that came up as from the last video that I made about Rolex and the conversation that I had with a local AD here in New York, Rolex Boutique, and I spoke to a sales rep and I made a video about that. So a couple of the questions were, is Rolex pushing their would-be clients to their higher-end watches? So in other words, limiting their production, which technically they aren't, and because they're not meeting the demand, are they essentially riding the wave of this demand and saying, hey, if you want a Rolex, you could buy a gold Rolex? And also, are they raising prices on their stainless steel models to take advantage of the hype surrounding Rolex? So as I mentioned in the previous video, I recently had a very honest conversation with a really nice Rolex employee, a sales rep at the New York boutique. He basically said, in a nutshell, Rolex has increased production over the past few years. However, they are not ramping up to meet demand because they are thinking about their business, employees, and brand, and their brand first. Essentially, if they were to meet the demand, they would need to scale up production, which would entail adding watchmakers, infrastructure to support the increased production, not to mention an increased sales force. And if they did this, for sure, yes, they could make more money and sell more watches. However, they could not, or they don't do this because they want to protect themselves from an economic downturn. If there was an economic downturn, demand would fall, and they would be left with inventory that possibly would go unsold. Even though they have very high demand, that's still a possibility. And even worse, they would have to lay off workers, maybe close watch shops. So essentially, they're limiting watches in production, protect their employees, protect their brand, protect the name Rolex. And as I mentioned in my past videos, they don't want to befall the same issues that other major brands have fallen into, where they're ramping up production to meet demand and then the demand falls away. So are Rolex raising prices on their stainless steel models to take advantage of this situation? So I would say they're not. And the evidence is in the used market. As I have mentioned in a few videos also, on Rolex, most stainless steel models are selling over the original retail. I'm not talking about vintage Rolex. I'm talking about current models that are used. The best example of this is the Pepsi Jubilee, the GMT Master 2. These are selling on eBay in upwards of $15,000 to $20,000. Sales, not listings. So I'm saying these are selling at that price. If you go on Bob's Watches, that's what they're selling for. And you see that they are selling. They are not just sitting inventory or a fake watch that doesn't exist. These are actually watches that are selling for these prices. So what's the point? Rolex has not moved the price significantly higher from previous models. Consider this. In 1957, a GMT Master cost $240. That was the 1675. The 1675 was around till 1996. In 1978, it was $795. In 1986, it was $1,450. And then in 1996, it was $3,300. In 2004, it moved to the 16710, and that was $4,250. In 2008, it went up to $5,750. And then in 2009, it went to $9,250, and that's the 12610, the BLRO, the famous Pepsi ceramic bezel GMT Master 2. So essentially what Rolex has done is steadily increase their price. They haven't really made incredible jumps because you could see they've been essentially doubling the price of this watch every 10 years. And there was actually a pretty big bump from maybe 1996 to 2008 where it essentially doubled in price. And then in 2019, we're going up to about $9,250. But if you're considering that these watches are selling for about 17, 20, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less on the secondary market, Rolex is really not taking advantage of what these watches actually could sell for. The demand is out there and people are willing to pay the price for these watches. You could buy a Batman on a Jubilee with a ceramic bezel and you're going to be spending $20,000. That's just what they cost. That's what the market is calling for. And Rolex is not raising their prices significantly to match that. And I'm not saying that's admirable. I don't think that's, I think that's a decision that they're making based off the fact that they don't want to stab themselves or shoot themselves in the foot and eventually lose market share because they are pricing themselves out. But this is the way it is. And there's a lot of speculation around what's going on with the market and Rolex. And will Rolex actually burst? Will the bubble burst? And who knows? But Rolex is just trying to safeguard themselves from that situation. Anyway, in conclusion, I really think Rolex could definitely raise their prices higher because there is proven demand. But that's just the way it is because people are willing to pay the price. They've raised prices and people are still paying the premium for a Rolex. So that's just the way it is. On a secondary market, you can go out and buy a Vacheron, one of the Holy Trinity, for $10,000, or you can go and buy a used Submariner for $10,000. It's all about what the individual thinks is the right price. And that's really what it comes down to. What watch is for you? Anyway, if you like this video, please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. It's super helpful. Please add a comment below. Let me know what you think about this whole situation with Rolex. I really like to hear from you guys. So please add a comment below. Thanks again.